Yep. Yana texted me and said, something's wrong with the stream. It's playing music, but getting louder and louder. And I was like, yeah. I didn't hear anything because I had the Twitch stream paused or muted. I mean, if it's causing problems for me to be on it, just do it normal, and we can figure out the next one and do like a mock one beforehand. We're fucking doing it, dude. Do it up. Yeah. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
All right, let's see if this is okay. Wow. This is some of the most technical difficulties I've had on a stream so far. So that's thank you guys. Thank you for kind of sticking with me while we got all of these things kind of worked out. So guys, on today's stream, we have a couple of really cool things going on. This is the first time I have a actual on-camera guest, although due to the same technical difficulties that we've been having earlier, due to that exact same technical difficulties, I may actually have to spend a second to get him on camera. So if you guys will just bear with me as I kind of get through all of this. But before I go ahead and get into it and roll the intro and do all of that, guys, we passed 100 likes on Facebook, which is awesome. That means this stream is going to be able, after today's stream, we're going to be able to get into the Level Up program for Facebook, which is fantastic. And last week I didn't release a video. I had a 4th of July stream. So go check that out. I played Nex Machina, talked about a couple of things. But this week, a video is going to come out. This week's video is going to be on Project xCloud and really talking about that. That's going to be the first video in like a 4 or 5 video series. So kind of stay tuned for that. Also, reviewing some mice. So look forward to those mice reviews here in a second. So seeing a lot of chatter here, which is great. Hey guys, love seeing chat on these live streams. Without further ado though, I want to go ahead and roll the intro and get started. So guys, if you're ready, I know I am. So let's get into it. All right. Oh, wow. Oh, the camera worked. Like I completely expected that camera not to register like immediately. Ryan, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no, thanks. So for everybody in the stream, Ryan is a veteran of the Washington, D.C. punk rock scene, and it currently plays drums for 2 bands, right? So you play for Supreme Commander and Collider. And
yep.
You can check out his bands on Spotify, Apple Music, any of those streaming services. Also, Supreme Commander just released last year you guys released your second full-length album, right? What was that, Tooth and Nail, right?
Yeah. Yep. Only took us 6 years to write and record it, but we finally got it out. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, better late than never, right?
Absolutely.
And then you guys have with Collider, you guys have another album coming out this fall, right?
Yeah, we started recording it earlier this year and got to the point where we only really need vocals and some guitar overdubs done, and then COVID-19 hit, and we're just waiting for our producer Ben Green to be, okay with us coming in and finishing things up. So I think that's probably going to happen sometime in August. Okay. And then we'll get it mixed and mastered, and I'm assuming it's going to be out in the fall digitally.
Awesome.
So really excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you? Okay, so before we get into anything, I'm still kind of setting up here. Why don't you talk a little bit about your experience, kind of getting all of that set up, man? Like that's got to be one heck of an endeavor, right? To be kind of writing, playing music and everything for 6 years, and then finally getting something out there. Well, why don't you talk a little bit about that experience?
So I started playing drums pretty late in life, which I kind of regret, because I feel like if I started like everyone else at a younger age, I'd be much more technically proficient. But hindsight's 20/20, so whatever. Yeah. So I had my first band right after I graduated college. I was about 22, 23 years old. We wrote a couple songs, played like one show, and then our singer joined the Marine Corps and moved to the West Coast. So that basically lined up with me moving up to Northern Virginia from Richmond 10 years ago. And I was working like a random government contracting job, and my office mate was in a band, and I had super FOMO. I would hang out with him in his band all the time. His drummer, for some reason, wouldn't let me play his drums, which always pissed me off. But so I would hang out with him all the time. And, I would always talk to him in the office about how I wanted to join a band, but I didn't really know that many people in the music scene other than the people that he had introduced me to.
Okay.
So he, on my behalf, actually found a Craigslist ad for a band looking for a drummer, and he saw that they liked the same bands that I did. So he responded as me, and then one day he basically just said, "Hey, you have an audition in a couple days, so get ready for it." And that's how I started my first band, and we were together for a couple years. We ended up getting a band house in the McLean area of Northern Virginia, and that's how I started promoting a lot of shows. So we would do shows at my house with both touring bands, my band, local bands. We would usually have anywhere from 30 to 100 people show up. We did them a couple times. What was it? It was usually once every other month, just so we wouldn't like really piss off our neighbors, who were very accommodating about it. So I did about 47 shows over the course of like the 6 years that I lived there. And during that time, I joined a couple other bands. We would have band practices in our practice room. And for a musician, having a place to practice constantly and do shows in your house is just a blessing beyond belief. So I was very lucky to have that experience. But since moving out, I don't really have a place to play my drums in my house, but the bands that I'm currently in each have practice spaces that we go to, but those have not been available since February, so I haven't played really in like 4 months. But we are in the process, Supreme Commander's in the process of setting up a live stream show at the Pie Shop in DC, and that should be going on in either July or August. We're not sure, but it's going to be pretty awesome. We're looking forward to it. So, do you know where you guys are going to have that show? It's going to be the Pie Shop on 8th Street in DC has a venue on the top of it. It's our favorite place to play. The owners, Stevie and Sandra, are really close friends of ours. We used to practice there. I mean, I've been in the band for like 8 years, so we practiced there for 5-6 years, something like that. And they've always been super great to us. They're like family to us, so it's really awesome that they're allowing us to basically be the first band to do this project with them. So very stoked at that.
That's fantastic. That sounds like a lot of fun. Is that going to be, so when you say live stream, is it going to be something on like Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, or do you?
I think they're going to set it up on a bunch of different platforms, and we'll be performing on the stage, and they'll have. My understanding is they're going to have a couple different camera angles set up, so it's like pretty professional. And the sound system there is amazing, and the people that run sound there are top of the line in DC. So
okay.
it's going to be great regardless. I'm just not exactly sure how they're going to do it. But
okay. No worries, man. No, but that's awesome. If anybody knows anything about like the music scene in general, I think anybody will be able to tell you that DC is a rough gig. There's a lot of bands out there, right? I mean, so it's good in the way that they kind of foster it, but at the same time, you have a lot of competition out there with other bands that might be performing, so on and so forth. How do you like overcome some of that?
It's a lot of things. I think networking with other bands, just being professional about things with the venues, like actually promoting shows so that when a venue gives you a chance at a show, they can see you're serious about it and you're not just screwing off and just want to get on the stage. And just continually writing and honing your craft. As I said, networking is a big thing. So getting to know everyone around the town and, getting on different shows, performing well so that the venue owners will not only let you do the local shows, but put you on opening slots for, bigger bands. We've been fortunate enough to play, we played at the Collider played at the Howard Theater once with Gen Blossoms, that 90s band, which is pretty like off the wall, but it was awesome to be able to play. Yeah. And we also played with Local H, that band from the 90s at Jam and Java in Vienna. That was really awesome. So, I mean, there are a lot of bands in the area. I think the biggest thing is that people in DC are a little fickle when it comes to going out to shows. DC is a pretty transient city, so a lot of people come here to work, and there aren't a lot of people from DC, and it's kind of like LA in that way. So a lot of people will go to like the bigger shows, like the Anthem, but getting people to come out to a local show is pretty hard. So I mean, the best thing to do as a local band in the DC area is to save up the shows that you're going to do one in a spot like once every other couple months, and then spend the rest of your time doing weekends around. And then when you're able to connect with enough venues and people, try and do some DIY tours, because I mean, everything's DIY. You can't expect anyone to help you out with things. You get promised things all the time, and 10% of them work out. You just have to. That's the way it is. So you just keep pushing, and if you're really cool, like I'd say the only people that I know that have become like really successful are the most awesome people I've met. They're always really cool. Like even if someone is being ridiculous, even if a promoter is trying to screw you over, just maintain your composure, be professional, and you're going to continue to move up the ladder. So that would be my advice to any musician out there is, you're not Bruce Springsteen, and even Bruce Springsteen is nice. So be a nice person and connect with as many people as possible.
Yeah. I mean, dude, and you guys are wonderful, by the way. And I want to say it was Supreme, I want to say it was Supreme Commander, right? Was that the show that I went out to go see when I was out in DC? Like that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
that you guys were incredible. The rest of the band they were really friendly. It was really good to hang out at that time. My wife I'm not sure. I know she was pregnant, but I'm not sure how pregnant. Mm-hmm. I want to say very pregnant. I want to say Wadley. I think she was fairly pregnant at that time, and obviously there were some accommodations that needed to be made, etc. And everybody was just so kind, and it was just a fun gig to kind of hang out with everyone. I like the ambiance too. The environment in which you guys were performing at like that venue was really nice too. So
yeah, absolutely. DC is really lucky the DC and Northern Virginia area are lucky to have so many venues that put a lot of effort into not only the sound system, but like you said, the ambiance, and they're constantly upgrading. For example, the club DC9, which is on U Street. They did a lot to upgrade their lights, the stage, the sound system in the last couple of years. It's really cool. It looks awesome. I mean, it was great before. It was just kind of your standard divey venue. But, they're always great to bands. We have a really good relationship with the owner, Bill Spieler, there. So awesome venues. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of miss some of the divey bars.
For sure. Yeah.
Like where I am, like there's some bars, but it's not quite like that, right? There's a handful, especially where I am right now, like where I live, like up this way, dude. It's straight up suburbia. Like you're not gonna have a bar that you can kind of go into and kind of hang out. That gets cleaned once a month. Like it's like I miss that, man. I miss that environment a little bit.
I think there's a time and a place for a dive bar. Just like you have your fancy beers and you have your PBR.
Yeah.
There's the right time and place for a PBR, and there's the right time and place for like double IPA, blah blah blah. Same thing with beers. You have your really fancy beer bars or cocktail bars, and then you have the dive place that you just go for like cheap French fries and beers and listen to like whatever music on the jukebox.
Yeah, whatever they have playing, right? Or even like I would even be happy with like just a pool or like a pool hall. Like,
oh yeah,
like I would just be happy with one of those. I mean, I have to go into the proper city to get anything like that around here. So, no,
well, that's unfortunate. There's a place called Carpool around here that I really like. It's like 20 minutes away from my house, and it has like 12 pinball machines, like 4 or 6 pool tables, darts, shuffleboard. It's awesome. It's a sports bar, but it just has all this really cool stuff in it. So that's kind of, I haven't been there in a while, but that's my favorite place to go with my buddies.
Well, and you know what, Ryan, actually you mentioned a couple unfortunately here, but you're actually the only person I know that's actually caught COVID. Do you want to talk about what that was like?
Yeah, so I went to a bachelor party in early March, and this was before any of the social distancing. It was for the first weekend of March. And as soon as we got there, we had just heard that city in Italy got locked down. So there wasn't really anything in the U.S. at that point, maybe a couple cases. But I remember having conversations with the people like, oh man, I wonder if like this like might not be the best idea. But we're like, whatever. Like we haven't heard that much. And one of the guys there was a little sick, but it just seemed like a cold. Didn't seem like anything gnarly or anything. And there were like 15 of us there. We spent 2.5 days in a cabin in West Virginia, and we came back, and pretty much immediately people started coming down with symptoms, and a wide array of symptoms. I didn't get it that bad. I had a little bit of a fever. I just felt kind of strange. I developed a cough. My fiance Yana, about a week later, said that her lungs were hurting. But 2 of my friends got pretty sick. My friend Nick was kind of bedridden for a couple days. He had like 102, 103 fever. Said he started having some problems breathing. And then eventually we all ended up testing positive. Nick, because he works at a hospital, was able to get an active coronavirus test while he was sick. But the rest of us pretty much had to wait for the antibody tests to come out because coronavirus tests were not readily available in like mid-March just because there was such a shortage. So as soon as I heard that the antibody test was available, I bought one. I went to Quest Diagnostics, was in and out in 5 minutes, and the next day I got the email that I was positive. So I immediately contacted the local blood bank and let them know that I had the antibodies and I was willing to donate plasma. So I went in and did that. It's actually probably time for me to go back because I think you can donate every 8 weeks. So yeah. I'll be going back there.
I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, I'm anybody who knows me knows I'm like definitely afraid of needles. So, but I
have a friend that's also like that, and he waited until they had a finger prick test, but I don't think he's going to be donating plasma. So.
Probably not. But so, what are they doing? Are they using that plasma to help develop a cure or at the very least a vaccine?
When I was told, they basically said that they're going to hopefully be able to use it for a variety of different things. When it comes to potentially treating people that already have it, or using it towards developing vaccines or other treatments, a bunch of things like that. At the time, the manager of donations there, his name's AJ. He's a really great guy at Innova Blood Donor Services in Fairfax. He was telling me that they only had like 4 people per week come in to donate plasma that had a positive antibody test. So, I started telling all my friends about it, trying to get all my friends that went with me to donate plasma. I just, they talk a lot about contact tracing and all of these efforts going around. I haven't got a phone call from anybody.
No, really?
No, I haven't heard. I haven't heard of anyone that I know or seen anyone on Facebook talk about being contacted by a contact tracer. And that kind of seems like the thing that people would put online, given everything that's happening. Like, oh yeah, I got a phone call, or I had to give names to a contact tracer. So I don't know. I don't know how much of it's being done right now. I heard that in like mid-April, the state of Virginia was going to hire a bunch of contact tracers, but I'm not sure how much is being done. I hope there's more being done than I'm assuming, but the way the government's been handling things, I'm not too optimistic about it right now. So.
Yeah, well, no kidding. But I mean, like Google and Apple both teamed up to. Did you read the news on that? That they teamed up to embed in all of our smartphones an application that will tell whether or not you've been 6 feet away from someone through Bluetooth. And they're incorporating that, and they're doing that under the banner of contact tracing. Blah. So that's
kind of. I mean, I can see people being scared about that kind of stuff, because like when you give power to anybody, who's going to lay down the fiery sword once the thing's over? Like once the justification has been made to do that, like, are they really just going to turn it off?
No, of course not, right? And so like, and who would we trust with that anyway? Do we trust these private companies who already do even somewhat questionable things with your data?
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. I mean, even with the contact tracing, I've heard people like, okay, who's going to get this data that you're giving them? And the claim is that it's only being used by, a certain health organization, but there's going to be this giant treasure trove of data that these people are giving up, and like, eventually someone could get it. Like, I understand how people feel weird about giving out that type of information, but I think the way that this disease is spreading, it's necessary. It really is. I mean, it's unfortunate that companies like Facebook and other ones that have just like betrayed people by taking their data and not really telling them what's going on. It sucks that we live in an environment like that, but we're humans, and humans do that kind of stuff to each other. So not that.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of all of those evil platforms, if you haven't already done so, please like this page on Facebook, like this video on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to hit that bell icon if you haven't done so already. All right, so look, man, I kind of agree and I kind of disagree when it comes to that type of stuff, because I don't trust anybody with that type of data. Like literally no one. Like I don't trust Facebook or Google or any of these companies who have a history of abusing this type of data. I don't trust the government. I definitely don't trust the government with that type of data, and that might open up the door to other things that they might get permission to, right? All in kind of the efforts of like safety, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at like it all kind of starting with the Patriot Act, and then every new like defense authorization bill that gets signed like just basically expands the powers of the government, and their relationships with private companies that have all of this data. And I mean, like years ago they had stories about the NSA or CIA basically having hubs inside of telecom companies, just like blatantly having the ability to go through people's text messages or phone calls and like with no warrants or anything like that. So
I mean, that's
the government's approach has basically always been kind of like it's better to apologize than ask for permission. So they just gotta do whatever they want, and then they get caught and they're like, "Oh, sorry, I guess we'll stop." Or not.
No, I mean they look at it and they go like, "What do you mean? Like that's not something we're doing, right? Of course it is, right? Of course it is. I've seen a movie. I've seen movies. I watch Netflix, right? We all know this happens.
Think of all the data that we're giving away for free to everybody. I mean, they can track exactly where we're going, what we're buying, what we say. They can do keyword searches to like rank us in different buckets, like who would be like considered like a subversive type person, like someone way too far to the left or way too far to the right, and categorize people and put them on, I don't know, watch lists to be, looked at by certain people. It's wild, man. I mean, at least it's not China where they have, they're talking about doing like the social credit scores, kind of like that Black Mirror episode. That's the kind of thing that scares the hell out of me.
I mean, not only that, I think that don't they have like cards now that can tell the Chinese government where you've been, right?
I'm not sure, but that would not surprise me.
Like access cards of some sort to enter buildings, and you have to swipe it at any time you get into any building so that they can actively track you. Right?
So crazy.
No, it's absolutely nuts. And look at when you take a look at some of the crazy nonsense that they're doing over in Hong Kong right now, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's really interesting, and what's more interesting is seeing what the countries out there are doing about this, which is nothing. In case you were wondering.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
we love freedom and democracy, but like we'll just let CNN write a couple like articles and the government's.
Well, I mean, if anything, right? Like there have been more companies and countries that have come out in support of China, or like condemning it, but like lightly, like, oh no, that's a bad thing, don't do that, but I'm not really worried about it, right?
Like, there's a history of that too. There's other industries that change the way they do things to be able to go into the Chinese market. Like a lot of movies like change the way that they'll edit movies a certain way so that they can go into the Chinese market. And like I don't remember if it was the NFL or the NBA. There's some scandal about the way that they deal with China, and it's like not really supporting the athletes properly. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, that's been something it's been happening for a while. So it's kind of just an extension of that. People don't want to piss off China too much, so they can keep
Well, you're starting to see it in gaming
market.
companies, right? I think last year when they were having or was that earlier this year, where the Hong Kong was having major protests. Many of the gaming companies came out and they're just like, no, you can't talk about this, right? Especially in like esports and stuff like that.
I remember that.
Yeah. And so just quickly acknowledging some people in the chat. I wanted to go ahead and say hi to Sienna. Hey, Sienna, how you doing? Gabriel, happy to see you in the chat. Yeah, it looks like I'm on your topic. That's good. Like these are topics worth discussing, right? These are all things that we should be considering when we're looking at kind of like everything that's going on in the world. And it's crazy, right? Because 2020 has been such a cluster that any other year this would have been like these types of things would have dominated the news cycle, right? But oh my God, like it is there's something new every day to worry about coming through the news.
Oh yeah, like I always say that I used to wake up in the morning, eat my breakfast, get ready to work, go to work, and check my phone. And now, like, I wake up and the first thing I do is look at my phone and look at the news to make sure there aren't like flames outside of my window, because there's always something every single day. It's just like gasp! Oh my God, what is happening?
Yeah, I mean, along those lines, you saw that. So this is one of the topics we have planned for the stream today. So, just kind of actually let me get out of this real quick. Let me roll over to let me roll over to one of the news articles that we want to go ahead and. Gabe does low key wants to move to China. I'm sure he does. So let's see if this is working. Let's see if this broke. Did this break? It sure did. Sure did break.
Oh no.
Let's see. Hold on. All right. Are we up and running with this? It doesn't look like it. So I'm gonna try something. It doesn't look like. No, don't do that. Okay. I thought for a second there it was gonna start echoing again. Let me try to fix this. I know this was one of the things I was afraid was gonna break, and looks like we're here. No, not Destiny 2. Not Destiny 2. That's not what I want. I want you. Can I get you? Please? Please and thank you. Nope. Sure doesn't want to work. All right, so I'm not going to pull up the article because I don't want to fight with this. I'm not trying to fight. Oh, there it is. Look at that. The moment I give up, the moment I surrender,
It's like, okay.
Yeah, I got you. But okay, so what do you guys think here? I'm asking chat. Ryan, I'm throwing this your way. So actually, this is a Supreme Court one. That'll be later. Really, the one I want to touch on right now is the fact that foreign students, due to an executive order, are going to have to leave the U.S. If their colleges go online. So if in the fall your college goes online and you are a foreign national going to school in the United States, you have to go home unless you actually attend in-person physical classes. So this is being reported here. This is an article from NPR. There are some guidance points around it. So effectively, if you have not entered the United States, so let's say you were getting ready to go into the United States for school, and you're still in the country of your origin, and for some reason you want to go to this festering petri dish, you can't come. We're not going to let you if your classes are only online. Now, if they do have an in-person option, you are able to come and you're able to attend school. And it's kind of the same if you're already here. If you're already here, we're saying go home. Which is interesting because I'm not fully sure with some of the restrictions on travel that like the EU and other countries have when traveling abroad at the moment. I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, I'm sure that's that's their citizens. They need to let them in, right? Like that's not really in question.
They just get quarantined. I'm pretty sure they come over, they get tested, get quarantined for 2 weeks.
Okay, so they would be quarantined for about 2 weeks, but like for a lot of these people, this has been their plan, and it's not easy. And let me state that as well. It is not easy to get into a U.S. university while living abroad. Like that is something that's extremely difficult. And if the classes are only online, saying that, hey, we don't want you here in the U.S., it's a little crazy, isn't it? What do you have to say about this, Ryan?
So, I mean, look at the way that America's education system has been going and where we rank, like even on the college level for science, mathematics, like STEM, we're way down there. And now we're saying we don't want your smart students to come here and help make America better. Like that's what's made America better for so many years. So stay in your country and make all these developments so that America can't benefit from them. I'm sorry, that's not the way this country is supposed to work. Well, and I'd love to know the actual motivations behind this, other than we just don't like immigrants, because it just doesn't make any sense. It's absurd.
It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense, especially since we're the petri dish, right? So yeah. we are the hotspot. Like I could understand if this was, let's say, December, right? And we're saying, look, guys, in January, because China's a hot mess. If you're in China, like don't, and you're coming to the U.S. in in the spring or summer semester, not summer, what is it, the fall semester, I should know this, Wes a professor, in the fall semester, then we don't want you here. And I could see that, like I could see that being a thing, right? But we're not there. That's not where we are as a nation. As a nation at the moment, if anything, we should be asking people to come over here. You know, one of the things, and I think you just now touched on it, right? Is one of the things that has made the U.S., right? That's made America great for all intents and purposes, right? It is diversity of thought and diversity of people. It's nothing else. This entire notion that we were here and we're here first doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense because it actually flies against really what this country was founded on.
I agree 100%.
But I mean, also, like, if you're already here, what's the point? So I don't understand. You're already here, right? You're already in the United States. You're already, you know, you probably already have an apartment. You have everything kind of ready and set up, you know, and now we're asking you to go home, but for what?
And another thing is, in those articles you'll read, not only are they asking people to go home, they're saying that if they don't, they will deport them.
Yeah.
So they're like the courts are already tied up with all the things that they're doing at the border, and now they're going to put even more stress on them by deporting these people for no reason. It's absolutely insane. Like I'd love to know how many international students there are in the United States, because I'm sure there are a ton of them. Like, you really think, I mean, I know this is probably going to be, the executive order is going to be challenged. You know, this obviously just happened. And a lot of Trump's executive orders have been challenged in courts, and it goes on. And a judge will put like a restrictive order on it so that it doesn't go into like effect immediately. But it's I don't know. I think Trump is just leaning into his base as much as possible right now, because he knows that that's the only way he can keep him around, because people are so pissed off about the way that he dealt with the coronavirus, which has affected the economy, that he was so excited,
so proud of, right? Yeah, I mean, look, let's not make heads or tails about it. The economy was in a phenomenal spot pre-COVID.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I was like, I'm pretty sure he's going to be, regardless of what he does, if the economy stays like this, he's going to get reelected.
Yeah,
because there are a lot of people on the right that do not like Donald Trump at all, but they're like, well, the economy's great and I'm doing well, so, you know, I'm not like this guy because he's, you know, such a jackass and just speaks out of his butt all the time, and, you know, does some things that I don't particularly like, but you know, look at my portfolio. A lot of people think like that, you know. People vote based on their personal
jobs and the economy. That's our livelihood, right? Like, and if you don't have a livelihood, you really have nothing, right? Like, that's hierarchy of needs. You got to make sure to be able to support yourself and your family. So I can understand that line of reasoning and thought, right?
The thing is that you can combine that with the well-being of others, which is just what some people don't do. So, like, a lot of like big government programs that they talk about doing, like, you know, giving people a break on college tuition, or, you know, universal health care. It's not like middle class people are going to be that affected by it, and the amount of money that you'll save by not having to pay as much for health care will like more than make up for that, and everyone will be better off. So I mean, it's just a certain way that, you know, I don't think that, you know, all conservatives are horrible people. I feel bad that, to be honest, that my Republican friends don't have a good person to vote for. Like, we're the John Kasichs and, you know, the other Republicans that, you know, maybe fiscally conservative and a little socially conservative, but seem to have a good head on their shoulders and are presidential and actually care about the norms that have been established in our government for the past 200 years.
Yeah. Well, so I'm gonna hand it over to chat here real quick. Let's see what we have going on here. There's been a fair bit of chatter. Looks like quite a bit on China. Looks like China has and this will have to be fact checked, right? 99% rate of winning cases, and foreigners don't have a chance if people get arrested there, right? Interesting. So Gabriel mentions that he thinks the order is aimed at Chinese nationals studying in the United States, where there's a lot of universities that take in Chinese students for a full tuition. And he mentions, now again, we all have to take all of this with a grain of salt. We have to take a look at what the numbers look like. But he says a lot of there's a fair number of them that come in as spies for the Chinese government, which would be interesting to take a look at. Right? I
mean, I haven't seen anything written about it, but these days I don't. Nothing surprises me. I'm the type, I'm a very progressive person, but I will read anything, and I'm not surprised if anything is true out there. I'm not just going to say, oh, there's no way. That's just that's some, right-wing stuff. I will read where the information came from and make my determination.
Yeah, and so that's the problem that we actually face in general in the U.S. So it looks like so one of the people in chat here, and I'm sorry, I'm going to struggle and collapse and fall to my knees trying to pronounce your handle. But Nayo Grandson 1, sorry guy, I told you I was gonna butcher the hell out of it. He mentions he believes that bigotry is the biggest issue in the United States today, and I will politely disagree. I will say.
What do you think the biggest issue is right now?
I believe that we no longer have positive. We're no longer allowed to have discourse, and have conversation about the issues that we have. Everybody's so entrenched. Everybody's so entrenched in their own theologies and their own ideologies that they don't have, and they don't give an opportunity to speak about the issues that we have today, right? And that there's a possibility that, hey, look, the way that I'm looking at something is not correct, right? The way that you combat. So, absolutely. So you have universities shutting down conservative speakers and things like that, right? That actually does happen, and it happens to a degree that's almost embarrassing. But that shouldn't be happening, because you want those people to come out to your universities. You want them to talk about those ideas. Whether or not you agree with them, there might be a kernel of truth you might not have understood before. It might spark a conversation. It might have you look at something differently than you would have looked at something before. So, it is really important. And the biggest problem the biggest problem that I'm finding in today is that you're not able to talk about it, right? The moment you say, I'm a Trump supporter, or you say that I'm a supporter of X, Y, and Z, you're already pre-labeled. You're already told what you should be thinking, and, you're talking into a vacuum. You're only talking to people who already agree with your ideals.
When I talk to people on the other side, if I don't know them, I usually start by trying to convince, basically, they can't tell where my political leanings are. I don't come out saying, I'm a liberal Democrat and have been since I was 16 years old, I go in and I start talking about issues and asking them questions and building that conversation base so that you can actually potentially learn something from someone. Because, I go into conversations, I don't know a ton about economics, So whenever I'm speaking to someone that seems like they know about that, I just ask them what they think and ask them where they get the information and how they think, different policies would work and stuff like that. And then usually by the end of the conversation, they can see where I sit on things. But by that point, they grow to the point where they enjoy talking to me. So they're not going to be like, oh, you're a total liberal idiot, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I wish more people would approach conversations instead of the way that people do it on Facebook, which is immediately just coming in and trying to cut someone's head off. It may be nice. It may feel nice and give you that little serotonin hit to be like, oh, I got him. But and obviously Facebook is not the best place to talk about politics because people just control each other. But in person,
it's not.
I try to be as agnostic as possible with things. There are obviously many things that are black and white in life, but everything else to me is a sea of gray, and you have to collect information and determine for yourself and not just live inside of the echo chamber that is built around you, whether you're on the left or the right, because, you know, all politicians do horrible things. You can't be like, this is my president and I support everything that he does. Like, you know, I am going to vote for Joe Biden. As soon as Joe Biden becomes president, if he does, I'm going to watch every move that he makes. And as soon as I disagree with something, I will be contacting my congressman, Don Beyer, and talking about it. Like, you know, being a citizen of the United States isn't just voting once every 4 years. It's being active in democracy. And I really wish that more people would be more active, especially at the local level, because local politics are the ones that affect you the most.
It's almost more important. Local politics is almost more important than national politics. Now, one could argue.
People just pay attention to the presidential politics because it's you know, on the same level as professional wrestling. It's the spectacle, it's theater, and people are attracted to the drama. You know, and I mean that's how Donald Trump became president. He's a reality TV guy, you know. So
yeah. Now, going back to chat here, Brain Candle takes a little bit of an issue with what at least what I was saying, right? About depends on. He says it depends on the speaker, right?
Exactly. I will agree. Someone like Milo Yiannopoulos does not need to be speaking at a college. He's not an academic. He's just like a crazy right-wing racist guy that, you know, started a YouTube channel about Yu-Gi-Oh cards or something like that. Like, I can understand having like, you know, intellectual people speaking, but like YouTube famous, you know, right-wing bigots, like, they have no place at a university. University is for learning, not just like hearing people on the fringe. Like, I'm all for free speech and whatnot, but as Brain Candle said, I think it really depends on the speaker. So
yeah, so I mean, I agree. Now, keep in mind that, you know, there are laws and in place that prevent that level of hate speech, but we also need to be careful in general, right? And I say this just in general, right? As to who gets to dictate, and this goes back to what I was saying about social media and everything like that, right? Who gets to dictate what is hate speech, right? Obviously, clearly racist comments and remarks and things like that, things that are very clear, night and day, right? But I'm thinking about someone like the person I'm thinking about is Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a clinical psychologist in a Canadian university. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me, right? And look, I mean, he's been barred from speaking at several universities in several areas, right? But I don't actually believe he's a bigot or that he ushers in hate speech or anything along those lines, right? That's not. I honestly don't believe that as somebody who's actually watched a lot of his content, right?
I haven't really watched a lot of his content, and I don't really know much about him. I know a lot of the people that I talk to are not huge fans of him, and like from, you know, the little bits that I've seen, I'm not a fan of him. But like, those are just bits, you know. Like, I'm seeing a small section of what's going on, so I can't make a full determination because I have not like engrossed myself in it. But like, that's the type of thing where like, I'm not going to make this like specific judgment call about someone, but I'm also not going to spend my time looking at all of his content, because from what I've seen, I'm just not going to enjoy it. So I would rather spend my time looking into something that I'm really interested in, and when the topic comes up with Jordan Peterson, say, well, I don't really know much about the guy. I don't really have an opinion, but I know that from what I've seen, I'm not a fan. So that's kind of how I approach
I would actually be pretty interested to have you, and you and I can have a subsequent conversation after the fact. Have you go and take a look at. I'll send you a couple of his videos, right?
Okay.
The biggest thing that he was kind of like condemned for was something that he mentioned about, you know, pronouns, right? With transgender, people who are transgender and would like to use the pronoun of their choice, right?
The controversy that was that he refused to refer to one of his students by the pronoun that they wanted.
No. So everything was theoretical. He actually never had a student that he that he refused to call by a specific pronoun. Canada actually was compelling that speech through law. And his stance was, I don't care what Canada says, I will say what I feel like saying. So his entire argument was actually towards free speech, not towards bigotry or hatred towards transgender folks. If you actually, if you listen to what he's saying, and he actually very clearly continues to explain it down the line, right?
Yeah, I'll have to look into it for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I'll send you a couple of vids. I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are after you watch some of his content.
Yeah,
but
I will do that.
Because I think that'll spark up some pretty interesting conversation.
Yeah.
But I mean,
sure.
In general, yeah. I mean, hate speech. I'm gonna be that hate speech bad. Hate speech bad.
Yeah.
But
get it out of here.
Yeah, get it out. But like also at the same time, like, who gets to decide what that is if it's not overly racist, like in your face type stuff?
I mean, obviously, free speech, like depending on what you do, can like end up being a slippery slope. It's definitely a difficult thing to deal with on the fringes. You know, the ACLU is there for a reason. Like, they're the ones that defend, you know, people that do horrible things. They defend terrorists, like, because everyone deserves fair representation in courts in a fair trial. And, you know, if it was left up to the mob, then these people would just be like executed on the street. But that's not the way America is. So That's why the ACLU is there. And I mean, all about free speech.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I actually find interesting, and I don't know, because you mentioned your fiance, and I know that your fiance has very deep European heritage, right? Mm-hmm. And it looks like Joasai kind of brings this up, right? It's interesting because the U.S. is really the only country that takes free speech to this level. Like, don't get it wrong. There is a degree of free speech, but there are
ways that they limit it in the U.S. But yeah, for sure, there are European countries where, you know, if you stand on the street and say the wrong thing, like, you can be arrested.
Well, and not only that, like, again, think about, it was Canada that compelled that speech, right? Like, that would never have happened in the U.S. Well, I say never, but let's hope it would never happen in the U.S., right? Where we actually have the government compelling speech under anything. Look, I'm not, like, if you're, you know, let's say transgender or whatever, like, yeah, I would definitely be respectful of you and call you what you would like to be called, right? But the government has no place in telling me that I have to do that, right? And so I think that's my bigger argument there. And again, who gets to dictate what that is? You know, those regulations can definitely be taken too far.
Yeah, no, I think that there are always going to be people that try and push things a little too far, whether you agree with them or not. Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me go hide in the game so that I can pull up the next the next article of topic, and also pull up a couple of people in the chat. So
I wonder if when you hide in the game, the other people are like, is that guy streaming right now, or is it?
No, because I don't think anybody's really doing a game stream in the format in which I'm doing it. I'm pretty sure that people who are game streaming want to be as effective killers as possible in a game.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you, I am distracted AF. So, looking at the stream, looks like there's a bit of a back and forth conversation between Brain Candle and Gabriel. little conversation about protection, who's protecting free speech, and if hate speech is considered free speech. I actually believe, and don't quote me on this, I believe that there are laws against it. Actually, in certain,
the Supreme Court says that the First Amendment does not protect free speech.
Not in the kind of the traditional sense that we talk about, right? Anything that incites violence is not protected by free speech. So, if the hate speech, and it's most of it does, right, incites violence, that is not protected by our constitutional right for free speech. So
yeah,
so that makes a lot of sense. Joasai jumped in here. She said, I'm late to the chat, but I'm listening on, and I want to say huge bravo to Mr. Burke for single-handedly hiring the number of people donating plasma in his community. So thank you for being a local hero, sir, if you will.
Oh, well, I'm doing everything I can. I hope there are more people out there donating.
Yeah, because like I said before, you're not pricking me with nothing. So
you're like I'm gonna need some laughing gas, so just put me under before you actually take the blood.
Seriously, dude. Okay, so I'll tell a quick story before I go back to chat. When they took my wisdom teeth out, it was really interesting because they're like, all right, we're gonna prick you, we're gonna give you your, we're gonna put you to sleep, and I was like, yeah, so do you got anything before that? They're like, well, put laughing gas on you. I was like, okay, yeah, we can do that, right? The dentist was, or orthopedic surgeon, I'm not trying to split hairs, guys. So the dentist comes in and puts the mask on, laughing gas, making everything go. He's like, you're going to feel drunk and after like a couple of minutes of this. So I don't know if it's just my alcohol tolerance, but he came back and I'm like, no, you gotta raise that dial. This is not enough. This is not okay. I need some more, before you prick me with that needle. But
the same thing happened to me when I had foot surgery. They were just putting local anesthetic in before they were doing surgery on my toe. And, put it in that, they take these long needles and they stick them in, they bend them around and fill you up and go in different directions. So wherever they're doing it actually swells up because there's so much liquid in there. And they let it sit for a while, and then he comes in and he's like, okay, can you feel this? And takes the scalpel and starts cutting my foot. And I'm like, oh my God, I can totally feel that. You gotta wait.
You're like, no. Don't do it. I don't like it. Take it back.
Yeah, I'm not paying you a $50 copay for torture. That's not what I'm doing.
Yeah, there's places for that, right? And this is not it. So okay, going back to chat, and I'm gonna actually touch on your foot surgery here in a second because I want to double click on that. All right, so wait. So this says here, Joasai is commenting, she's a European and American, attitudes towards free speech that also incorporates allowing hate speech breaks her brain. I believe it. With that said, my horizon's been expanded, and now it's something that I'm actively considering. And she agrees with you that, hate speech regulation and legislation can definitely go too far. And it's a slippery slope, right? The moment you allow some of it to occur, what's to say more can't come in, right?
Well, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of when you start banning things like books or, I always referring to the movie Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone, where Taco Bell is the only chain restaurant left, and they don't have any. Their salt was banned, and all these things were banned. I definitely believe that people have the right to make their own choices, which is why I think that drugs should be legal and regulated. And
I would agree, tax the shit out of it.
Yeah, no. Look, just seriously, look at all these states that are close to bankruptcy right now. Legalize marijuana and enjoy the billions of dollars in tax revenue that will be wrought, and all of not only that, but the drug trade will drop. Criminality, crimes regarding drugs will drop. look at Colorado. I mean, like, these case studies are here. Look at Canada. You know, it's plain as day. And for me, I was actually very surprised that Virginia recently, because of the very progressive General Assembly that we have now, decriminalized marijuana and made it so that you basically just get a $25 fine, and I don't even know if it's a misdemeanor. I think it's just like a civil type thing. They give you a ticket for $25. Right?
It's like a parking ticket.
Yeah. If you have like up to an ounce on you or something like that, or they catch you smoking a joint on the street, like, yeah, it's whatever. But also, the more important thing is that they, I believe, made it so that medical marijuana is available to anyone that has a prescription, not just the specific types of cancer that were allowed under the previous rules. So that means that I'm pretty sure soon there will be dispensaries available, and so that people that have problems with anxiety and, you know, problems sleeping, anything like that, that aren't able to get it legally, will now be able to get it, which is great. There are a lot of people that can really be helped by, you know, marijuana, and I think it's great that there are a lot of strains out there that are low THC, high CBD. So you don't, you know, you're not like plastered to your couch stoned. You basically just get the relief, which is, you know, I think CBD has a lot to do with that, as well as like a mild.
It does. Actually, you know, I was just on antibiotics, so I wasn't doing it then, but I have, anybody who knows me knows that I have insomnia. I have terrible insomnia. Terrible insomnia. And I think you know this just from some of our prior conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there are occasions where I take CBD to help me go to sleep, and it helps. It helps a lot.
Yeah.
And so if there's additional benefits from legalizing marijuana that could be out there, and dude, again, I say legalize it and tax it. Fund our schools with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're talking about billions and billions of dollars. And
absolutely.
eventually, another interesting thing about the legal marijuana trade is that even though it's legal in certain states, banks will have nothing to do with them. And they're not extended lines of credit. It's a fully cash business. So you have, you know, you have like a lot of armored trucks showing up like every day carrying away like tens of thousands of dollars. So, you know, hopefully if it's decriminalized across the country, then it can be treated as a normal business and not the weird loophole type way that it's treated. Like in Washington, D.C., the dispensaries that are there's a weird loophole where you basically have to, you buy a pair of socks and you're gifted like an eighth of weed. Like you go in.
Are you serious? Is that really how that works?
Yeah, they'll refer to it as they refer to it as like medicinal whatever. Or like, what type of gift are you looking for? You know? There are delivery services that bring you a bag of cookies that you pay $75 for, and then you get a small bag of weed or gummies or whatever.
That's crazy.
So that's the way that DC operates, but like it's just so absurd. Yeah, I mean,
just why not call a spade? Exactly, dude. I was about to say exactly that. Call a spade a spade, man. Yeah. Yeah. Like, alcohol's not much better. And look, to be clear, and I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I've literally never smoked any weed ever in my entire life.
Oh, okay.
It's not because I'm against it. It's just I already have a poison of choice. So
the thing about weed is that it's just not a big deal. Like, It's not a big deal if you do it a lot, and it's also not a big deal if you don't do it at all. It's not this like absolutely amazing experience that you're like totally missing out on. Like, I mean, being stoned, you're just like, you know, really happy and giggly and whatever, you know, like,
yeah,
it's fun, sure, but like, it's, you know, you're not missing out on the best thing in the world if you just decide you don't want to do it.
Exactly.
But to your point before, like, alcohol is way worse than weed. I mean, like, yeah, so many people die from it all the time, both like by being killed by drunk drivers or, you know, developing cirrhosis. And people, it's crazy. I mean, and the reason that it's so socially acceptable is because there is a massive alcohol lobby in this country and crazy advertising and just the way that our society functions, where you're not supposed to do, you're not supposed to do, you're not supposed to do it before you're 21. So then, of course, everyone does it. And then you go to college, and binge drinking is the way that you know, it's just like the way that you're taught, and then people continue that.
Well, you know what's interesting is that a lot of people say if it was lowered to 18, that wouldn't be the case. I disagree, just based off of everything that I've seen. Right?
I think it's a cultural thing. I mean, like certain countries have really huge alcohol problems, and obviously alcoholism. You know, there are some people that are predisposed to alcoholism.
Yeah.
But I think that we just have a culture of drinking's fine, you know, and like at least in the last like 20 years, people have been treating alcoholism a lot differently, and you have, you know, super intense like DUI laws, like in Virginia. I think it's even with the first offense, it's like a mandatory weekend in jail. You have to get a breathalyzer on your car unless somehow your lawyer is able to convince them otherwise. You have to do classes. So like all said and done, you get a DUI, you're basically spending like $10,000 and you lose your car for a while, and you have to go to AA, which is like
a DUI
very different from how it was. Yeah, it can destroy your life.
It could be very devastating. But I mean, at the same time, like you could kill someone driving. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's crazy. Going back to chat, wanted to go ahead and give a shout out to Exotic, who's joined the chat. He sent that a while ago, so hopefully you're still there, sir. And looks like, so Gabriel mentions that he agrees with the comment that I said, that if the speech incites violence, that it is no longer protected under the Constitution, which is I believe it. Yeah, no, that's definitely correct. And then Joasai just mentioned, yeah, it's so normalized. Yeah, she's talking about the alcohol. Yeah, alcohol is terribly normalized. Alcohol is, you know, that if alcohol wasn't already legal, it wouldn't be, right? So it's nuts to see us treating something that is honestly not worse than alcohol in this manner.
Well, yeah, look at how alcohol was treated during Prohibition. What happened? There was a massive illegal trade of it that was fueled by the mafia, and so many people were killed. You know,
I watch Boardwalk Empire. I know what's going on.
Yes, I mean, and then look what happened. Look what happened after alcohol was legalized. Like, it became a legal thing. Like, the mafia went on with like doing all the other crazy stuff that they do, and you know that alcohol wasn't causing you know, deaths in that way. Obviously now it's causing deaths from, you know, alcoholism and drunk driving, but I'm sure that people were dying with that during Prohibition. So
yeah, are you trying to prove your point for legalizing drugs?
I mean that's a comparison can be drawn.
Okay, going back to the chat here.
Yeah, about that.
It looks like, so there's been some chatter in the chat about some Supreme Court ruling on free speech. And the one specifically in question is Brandenburg versus Ohio. And Gabriel mentions here that it is in regards to speech that incites violence and producing imminent lawless action. What's interesting is that the U.S. Supreme Court reversed Ohio's original conviction, and that is interesting. And to Gabriel's point, yes, that is a bar that you see behind me talking about alcoholism and everything like that. If you go back to earlier in the stream. We were talking about the fact that there are no dive bars in my area, so I wanted to create one. Create that experience.
That's a great business decision.
Yeah. So from my neighborhood, sometimes people come in here and just like leave half of a broken toilet seat just kind of hanging out, just to make me feel more like home, right? So it's fun. It's fun. But yeah, that's there. Josiah, she laughs. I'm not entirely sure what she's laughing at, just because I'm reading this so late. Probably A comment I made. Or you, maybe. Maybe. Let's see. So, all right. You know, speaking about the Supreme Court, let me find somewhere to hide. Let's go on to the next subject of today's stream. I'm running. Running, do not kills me. Okay. Hiding in corner. Okay. All right, cool. Like, I'm literally not doing anything, but glad it's complete, I guess. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next. Ew, no. Okay, let's go to the next subject. What am I doing? Nope, JK. That is not you. I really need to figure this out, guys. We're gonna do that. Hopefully that does what I actually want it to. Yes, it actually did. Fun. All right, so let's go on to the next article. So the next article on here, and I would love to get so far again, Ryan. Thank you for so far being such a great conversationalist. I know in our history together, you've always been a great person to talk to and kind of talk about these types of things, and I always appreciate these conversations. And actually, before I get into this, guys, if you're watching the stream and you're on YouTube, don't forget to like this stream, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you know anytime I'm live streaming or post a video. If you're on Twitch, make sure to follow me on Twitch, and if you're on Facebook, go ahead and like the channel. Again, it helps in me justifying to my wife that I need to buy such expensive stuff to keep this going. Okay, so looking at this, so the next topic that I wanted to go ahead and talk about is the Supreme Court case that was ruled on yesterday, basically leaving the Electoral College kind of as is, right? This is a news article that I pulled up from the Washington Post, and you'll see that not only was it upheld, but it was unanimous by all of the Supreme Court justices. And I actually have a fairly strong feeling about the Electoral College in general. But let's take a look. What was the opinion here? That so it looks like. So it obviously doesn't eliminate everything completely. This is definitely something that can be kind of talked about, etc. But really, the change that was being proposed was an overall change to how votes are counted, and they were basically saying that if I gathered this correctly, that the electoral votes would be split up. By percentage, if I'm not mistaken, of the popular vote instead of winner takes all, which is what the system we have today, right? So, Ryan, what do you think about this? And everybody in chat, what do you guys? What's your opinion on this change?
So, for people who don't know, when you vote in the general election, you're voting for a specific candidate. You're basically voting for an elector to go and vote for that person. So the number of electors, delegates, whatever, that are allocated to each state is basically the number of senators plus the number of congressmen that they have.
Yes.
So, and as of now, there's a winner takes all approach. So like based on the percentage of however many people vote for one way or the other, all of those delegates are then supposed to vote in the election for that candidate. What happened in 2016 is there were, I think it was only like 2 or 3, decided not to vote for Hillary Clinton and to vote for Colin Powell or a write-in instead. And, this Supreme Court case has a ton of bipartisan support because, and I support it because it's just democracy. You don't vote for someone and then someone just decides, no, I'm sorry. It's kind of the same thing as like, you're a constituent of your congressman, right? And your congressman is supposed to basically exercise the will of the people. And a lot of times they don't do that, even though like there's a massive campaign for something that's happening locally, and they just decide not to do it. You know, that's not really the way that things are supposed to work. I understand in some cases when they would do that, but that's kind of not the way that democracy on paper is supposed to work. You know,
at least not our democracy, right?
Yeah, and I think that in terms of like the Electoral College, you know, there are a lot of arguments for and against it, and I think many of them are valid on both sides. I don't have a super strong opinion about it just because I haven't focused on that a lot. There are other opinions. There are other, you know, areas that I tend to focus more on. Like a lot, you know, because of this president, I've been very interested in executive power and limiting that. So, you know, the Electoral College thing isn't something that I've spent a lot of time reading about, but, you know, well, given I'm not able to speak to it right now, I'm probably going to spend a generous amount of time the next week reading about it.
Well, look, I mean, and I'm going to double click on something. I'm going to go back to the article here in a second, but you're saying, you know, limiting executive power. A lot of people on the right would argue that executive powers were terribly expanded on. They're expanded on with every president, right? But that they were terribly expanded on by Obama. And a lot
if you're talking about the number of executive orders that he put into place, sure. He definitely did a lot of that. And yeah, I mean, every single president for years has added to the powers of the president, which is not good, in my opinion. You know, we need a more balanced government between the different branches. That's the way it was supposed to be. And obviously with this president, like, in my opinion, he's done a lot of things that are worthy of him being removed. And just because of how partisan things are, you know, just look at the way, you know, you can believe or not believe what they were investigating, but the way procedurally that it was handled was ridiculous. The fact that they didn't call any witnesses in the Senate, the fact that, like, at the beginning things were like behind closed doors, and there's just a lot of procedural sneaky things that the parties do to each other to kind of push back, and it ends up harming the American people and you know, the journey to find out the truth. And that should be the goal, to uncover the truth and then, you know, prosecute anyone that has done any wrongdoing. No one's above the law, and that's how it should be.
Yeah,
it goes for both sides, you know. I mean,
I definitely agree.
It's not like, I don't believe that, like, oh, like, only the Republicans commit crimes, the Democrats are fine. No, look at history. Look at the last 20 years. Like, you have politicians from all over the place going up. Being a politician, people like that, people that are attracted to positions like that, are, you know, probably have a much higher percentage chance of being sociopaths. You know? Like, it's like anything, you know. But
all right, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that no Ryan Burke for 2020. Is that's what I'm hearing out loud, because he would be a sociopath to even think about doing that job, right?
Well, I mean, I think that people get corrupted by the system as they move up, because you start locally, then you have to move up within the party, and you have to make a lot of compromises. So, you know, even Barack Obama, you know, he can't be a big progressive, and then by the end of his administration, like, some things were put into place, like, you know, ACA, but you know, in general, he was a pretty lukewarm Democrat. He did a lot of things that I did not agree with. You know, a lot of drone strikes and, you know, compromises on things that should not have been done. But it's America, you know. It's it's not marriage; it's public transportation.
America. Yeah, definitely America. Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting, especially since the legislative branch has really done a lot to erode its own power and authority. And that's been happening for years as well. But I'm going to go ahead and go out on the limb and say that this is probably the worst erosion of that authority that we've seen so far. Right? I would agree that Obama did sign the most amount of executive orders, but the erosion or the feeling that Congress can't do X, Y, and Z because of the president. Look, the sole, like, not the sole, but one of the responsibilities, constitutional responsibilities at that Congress has to this nation is oversight over the executive branch. And I will say that I will find. I just read someone in chat who said they would vote for you, and you would probably be the first drummer president. So that's good stuff. But yeah, I mean, throughout the years, I mean, the legislative branch has just been, and I don't know what it is. Like, why is it that they're ceding so much power to the executive branch and not providing the oversight that is not only needed but is mandated by the Constitution?
I think it's more party politics than anything. You know, just look at the way that in the impeachment hearings and everything, the way the Republicans were talking about things. It's like they won't even. They're all lawyers, so when you want to ask someone a direct question, and they don't want to answer that question, they answer something else and they die. And they do that constantly. Like, you look at any hearings, and if they have a witness that they know is going to provide information that goes against what they're saying, they ask different questions. And the witnesses will try and be like, well, this is what happened. And they're like, that's not what I'm asking you. That's not what I'm asking you. They'll try and stall them. Like, recently I think it was someone from the World Health Organization, or it was something happened. It was a coronavirus hearing. There was one Republican senator that kept tapping on the table because, like, the guy that they were interviewing happened to go over 5 minutes, and he was just a total dick about it the whole time. It's like, dude, like, this is why we're here. Like, we're here to learn about what's going on, and you're, bullshitting about some procedural rule. It's so absurd. It would be nice if we could return to the time where people could be bipartisan. I mean, the Democratic House, over the last couple of years has put together like 400 bills and sent them to Mitch McConnell in the Senate, and he's not passing them just because it's like, fuck the Democrats. Like, it's so stupid. Like, people are so pissed off about that. Like, we need bipartisan stuff to go through. We need people that will reach across the aisle and get stuff done, because otherwise nothing's going to get done. And then you're just going to have the president passing executive orders all the time. And no one wants that. So,
like, actually touching on that a bit, do you actually believe a bipartisan president could get elected at this current moment? How polarized?
You mean like
a centrist, like a centrist president? Yeah, a centrist candidate. Do you believe a centrist candidate right now could run for, like, a proper centrist candidate could run for?
I think a centrist candidate is about to get elected, because Joe Biden is absolutely a centrist. He's just surrounded by a bunch of progressives right now, and he's campaigning on a progressive platform because he knows he has to in order to galvanize the Democratic Party, because Bernie Sanders has spent the last 8 years building this giant grassroots progressive platform that has been adopted by pretty much every Democratic candidate this cycle, at least a little bit. Each one had like a little bit more. But, back in 2016, people were like, this is so ridiculous. It's so out there. And now it's commonplace. You're looking at the platform, and a lot of things he said back in 2016, the Democrats weren't taking into account. Now it's part of the official platform. I think that there are a lot of Republicans that look at someone like Joe Biden and say, oh, like, he's friends with Republicans, he's like worked on bipartisan stuff, and they're fine with it. So yeah,
he's getting at, like, during the can you please work for me? The controller doesn't want to work. The battery died on the controller. Am I gonna have to play with?
Oh no!
Makes it a little more difficult. Hold on. Oh no! Come on, you're actually on. Okay.
So do you usually play with the controller?
Especially when I'm doing this, because I chat, and so
on the keyboard.
Yeah. So my setup, and we'll go back to the discussion here in a second. So my setup here is I have a 3 PC setup in this office.
Nice.
But one is a work computer for my day job, so I'm not going to count that. But I have 3 monitors here. I have a 65-inch 4K that I have hanging over 2 27-inch monitors. That's not a flex, it's just reality, guys. And so So that, what I do is I keep the bottom two monitors to my Surface Pro, where I watch the streams to make sure the stream is actually going well and that there isn't dips in anything, etc. Right? And I try to answer chat on those, so I keep my keyboard connected to that one. By the way, the keyboard I use is the Logitech G915 Lightspeed. If you haven't seen that video, it's on my YouTube channel, so go ahead and check that out. So when I'm streaming like this, I definitely use a controller. It's easier for the setup.
Yeah. I was talking to my fiance about getting back into Minecraft, and I saw that they had it for the Switch, and
yeah, they do.
I've been playing the Switch a lot because of Animal Crossing, and she platform shamed me. She was like, "Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just play it on your computer?" And I'm like, "Play stuff on the Switch. It's fun."
Yeah. So,
I'm also just not used to using a keyboard to play.
I mean, just like with anything, right? You get used to it. I am definitely better with a controller than I am with keyboard and mouse because I abandoned PC gaming some time ago and have only jumped back into it about a year ago. So yeah. I was a console gamer for a very long time. And
that's how I've been, man. PlayStation all the way.
Yeah, PS4, playing all those games. And, it is difficult to get into it, but when, you have, like, the peripherals that I have, my peripherals are pretty baller. So I try to use them when I can.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, going back to the original discussion here about the Supreme Court and, first of all, they had to uphold the Electoral College the way that it is. They can't really make changes like that without, in my opinion, an amendment to the Constitution, which is probably necessary, right?
Oh yeah, I mean something that huge and to change, like institutionally change the way the elections are. Yeah, it would absolutely require something like that.
And I want to give a quick shout out to my boy Much Love 106 who just made it to the chat. Always appreciate having you on here, sir. But yeah, I mean, look, I find that the Electoral College is a terribly antiquated system, and I don't believe that we should be gamifying our elections the way that we do. And a lot of people say
there's already enough gamifying already with gerrymandering and all the purging of voter rolls and limiting the number of polling stations. Like there's already enough bullshit going on in our elections. We don't need anything else.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes a lot of sense, right? And what also makes sense too, right, is that a lot of people will say, well, the Electoral College is there to make sure everybody has equal voting rights, right? Doesn't matter where you live. If you live in I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody, but if you live, or something like that. Yeah, I mean, if you live in an extremely rural, let's say, state that the population just isn't there to support, your candidate being selected, then I kind of get that. I kind of get that thought process, but also kind of disproportionately weighing. And I think it is. It's a disproportionate weight on those people's votes, right? Like they shouldn't have the same vote as the rest of the majority, or the same say anyway. They should count as one, like every individual in every other place counts, right? Like my vote should be counted as one. Right? Your vote, Ryan, should be counted as one. It shouldn't be counted as 3 or 4 because I live somewhere where my population is lower. Right? Does that make sense?
Another thing that annoys me about the whole process is the way the primary process works with like the Iowa caucuses and stuff like that. Basically, they've developed these like communities that are just like hyper political And you get people from CNN and Fox News going down talking to people, and they're like, well, I still haven't decided who I'm going to vote for, so I'm going to go and go to this luncheon and go talk to all these candidates, and they're just entitled voters, and it's just ridiculous that these specific states are just given this huge focus every year, and it's always the same thing. If anything, it should just be changed up so that the focus is moved to different states. So you can hear these candidates talking about how their platforms would affect this state. Iowa, everyone's always talking about corn and agriculture and stuff like that. Go to another state where the economy is based on something completely different.
It's important though. I mean, our if I'm not mistaken, and somebody I'm pretty sure in chat is going to correct me, but if I'm not mistaken, right? I believe that agriculture is our number one export and biggest contributor to our GDP. If I'm not, what's up with this controller?
Well, I mean, right now it's probably coronavirus, but
yeah. All right, keyboard and mouse it is. This is going to be awkward, but I'm going to try it. Because my controller keeps dying on me, and I am not about that life right now. But I believe that it's an antiquated system. It's a system that made more sense when we were 13 colonies. And they wanted to make sure that the colonies would have a more even say, right? And I would even argue that that's not even necessarily the case. I'm just fighting that argument, right? I would say that if I vote, and I vote for a candidate, and that candidate, just because of the state that I live in, right? So let's say you're a Republican in California, or a Democrat in South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Your vote is never really going to count, right?
Yeah, and that's what causes a lot of people not to vote.
Yeah,
there are Republicans in DC that they just won't vote, and that's another reason that voter turnout is so low. Everyone should vote.
But I mean that is
they should be incentivized to vote.
That's a symptom of our electoral college, right?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. That's one of the reasons. It's that, and then there are just the people that say it doesn't matter, it's all rigged, blah blah blah. The reason, people are like, I'm not gonna vote because I don't matter. And I'm like, no, the reason you don't end up mattering is because so many people think like you, and that's a huge chunk of people. So yeah, you don't matter.
Yeah, you don't matter.
How about you matter? try and matter, and then if you're not going to vote, then don't complain to me about anything.
That is actually the way that that is actually the way that I approach that. I have so many people who want to complain about the current administration, who want to talk about the way things have been going, and talking about this country's going down the toilet and stuff. And when I ask them who they voted for, they tell me nobody.
Yeah, or what have you done about it? All the people that call for a third party every election, they always just do it at the 11th hour when it's down to the two candidates, and they're like, we should have a third party. I'm not voting because we have to have a third party. And then as soon as the election is over, you don't hear anything from them because they don't actually care that much. Because if they cared, they would do something okay, well, why aren't you out there joining the Green Party or joining another party and advocating for them or running as a low capacity as a third party? They're not just going to magically pop up without support. So if you really care that much, how about you do something?
Absolutely. I mean, and again, that's been I don't have, and I'm all for positive conversations, but you can't tell me that everything's all messed up and you did nothing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've almost voted third party before. During the Bush-Kerry election, I really wanted to vote for Walter Cobb, who is the Green Party candidate, because I wasn't a big fan of John Kerry. The reason I didn't is because a poll came out right before the end of the election, right before the election was over, that there was only an 8-point gap between Bush and Kerry in Virginia. So I held my nose and I voted for him. But that's another thing. It's like the Electoral College. I wasn't going to vote Democrat because number one, I didn't really like John Kerry, but number two, I thought my vote didn't count because I lived in Virginia. Obviously now it's different because Virginia is totally a purple state, but it wasn't back then. It was still a red state.
Yeah, it's still, and you know, we're in Florida here. It's a little bit different in Florida. I mean, we're fairly purple.
I think it's going to be more purple this election because a lot of the aging population there is pissed off about the way that Trump has responded to the coronavirus.
Yep, I agree. His response to this, I don't care what side of the aisle you're sitting on, has been it's been terrible.
Yeah, no, I think this is just like, it has nothing to do with what political party he's in. No. It has to do with his lack of leadership and the fact that he just came out on national television and said that he doesn't take responsibility. Like, okay, so you take responsibility for the wonderful economy that you've created, but you're not going to take responsibility for your horrible missteps during, you know, a time. These are the types of things. This is when a president is made. This is when you see like the mettle of a person, you know,
broken.
And he's showing his true colors. Like, yeah, like, how do you act during a crisis? How do you respond? Like, what do you do? Like, I guess his thing is just to tell people to shut up and not take responsibility for it.
And don't wear masks in public. I think it's funny. And look, I know that I'm more extreme with my social distancing than most people. And the main reason for that, by the way, isn't because I think everybody's got the virus and I'm terrified, right?
Yeah.
It's that for me to not be terrified, right? For me to not be afraid, there's only one thing I can control. I can't control how other people react to this, but I can control how I react to it, and I can control how my family reacts to it, right? Mm-hmm. And by my family, I mean my immediate family, my wife and daughter, right?
Yeah.
So some people see how I act, and they go, "Oh, he's, you know, I don't want to be crippled by fear." Well, I'm actually not crippled by fear. I'm not.
Yeah, no. Like, I have some friends that will, you know, I have friends that don't really take it that seriously. I have friends that take it very seriously and go to extreme lengths. And I have a problem. I definitely like see a problem with people that don't really care and aren't taking any precautions. But I don't fault anyone for being very, very strict during this time because it's the smart thing to do. There's no reason to fault people that are taking extreme measures. Like, you know, I have a group of friends that were going to see, you know, their family, and they basically requested that they not leave their house for 2 weeks. Like, don't go to the grocery store or whatever, like take precautions, and they wouldn't come down until that happened, you know. I don't, you know, obviously some people would say that's super, super extreme. It's taking precautions during a global pandemic. Like, how can you say that person is crazy? They're not crazy. They're trying not to get and or spread a virus that kills people. So
that could potentially kill you, right? That could kill somebody. Oh, was that a chest? There
are people in their 30s that are contracting this. I saw a report on CNN. It was like a 9-minute, really, you know. Usually videos in places like CNN are like a minute and a half long, and it's just like super opinion based and they're annoying. This was like a 9.5 minute long video that was like great journalism. They went to this hospital, this ICU in Houston, where they were bringing all the people that were very sick with the coronavirus, and they were full up. You know, at one point, one of the surgeons was saying that he was a vascular surgeon who was talking about how he has to make decisions all the time. Like, they have 3 beds, they have 10 people that need them. Who would actually respond? So he's basically saying, like, who are we going to let die and who we treat? And they also talked about the way that they're treating people now, and they're not really using ventilators anymore because ventilators, like,
they're actually bad for you, aren't they?
Yeah. So the way a ventilator works is that it you know, forces oxygen in your lungs and increases the pressure in your lungs. The problem with coronavirus is that it weakens your lungs so much that, like, the damage to your lungs is detrimental. There's like a 90% death rate for people that, at least in the beginning, like 90% of people that end up going on ventilators die. And you end up like, you have blood clots that burst in your lungs, all this stuff. So now they have a process, I forget the term, what they do is they basically put these giant tubes and connect them to your circulatory system and use a machine to like re-oxygenate your blood instead of like having a ventilator. So in the report, you can see these giant, like, they look like, you know, the rubber tubes that you use to like suck gas out of your car, and they're like stuck in your legs, like basically filtering your blood for you and adding in more oxygen. And they've had a much higher success rate for that. But like everyone that they interviewed, all the patients that they interviewed in that video were in their 30s. So that, you know,
I mean, those are the people getting it now because they feel like they're invincible. Right?
Yep.
Most of the people getting it right now are people our age that are just like, yeah, no, it's fine. I can't get it, right? We can go out to the beach, we can go hang out.
Yeah, Memorial Day was bad. I'm wondering if July 4th was even worse. I mean, I know in Florida they closed down.
In Florida it will be.
They closed down some beaches though, didn't they? At least. But that was probably a county base.
That was a county per county deal, and I don't believe that they did that for the 4th. I could be wrong. I know,
okay.
Dude. I know over here, dude. My neighborhood. I'm wondering where these people got that type of money. Like, dude, I was sitting out there with my wife. We were just kind of sitting down, watching the fireworks, and we thought we were in Disney, dude. Like the fireworks were everywhere. Like,
yeah.
And I couldn't help it. I was just sitting there like, that's $100. That's $200. That's $150.
And like giant mortars. Those things are really expensive.
Dude, man, like, no, not. And when I say giant mortars, I'm not saying the single mortar.
You're talking about the massive Disney World style.
Yeah, I'm talking about like multiple explosions. Yeah, really, really big deal.
That's awesome.
Like, it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. I felt like I should have paid for what I watched. Like, I don't know if that's ever happened to you. Have you ever gotten bored watching fireworks? Because I know I've never gotten bored watching fireworks. But after 2 hours, my wife and I were just like, I think it's time. We should go inside.
Yeah. I know that Disney World has really cool fireworks.
Yeah,
I've probably seen them before, but it's been so long since I've been.
Yeah.
One day when the virus is gone, I'll go back. I want to see the Star Wars theme park really bad, and stay in the Star Wars hotel.
You know what it's upsetting because it actually got delayed indefinitely because of COVID. But I really want to go to like Nintendo Land.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, have you heard of that? The Universal's opening.
I saw something about it. I read an article about it a while ago. So are they just not doing it anymore, or they've already built it up and they're just suspending it until the coronavirus is done?
At the moment, it's at the moment it's the plans are delayed indefinitely due to COVID, which makes sense, right? Like a ton of people aren't going to the parks, and like, why are you going to continue to plow money into something until while people are not like going out, right?
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense.
Makes sense. All right, so let me go back. Let me go into chat here. So Gabriel mentions we could be like North Korea and require everyone to vote by law. Okay. No. But Joasai mentions, I assume that in North Korea, people don't even need to go to vote. The voting is done for them. That's probably unfortunately true. Do they even vote? They don't vote for their supreme. Do they vote for their supreme leader?
I have no idea.
I don't think so. I think that's inherited. No.
I'm not sure. I mean, if there is any voting, it's like, all right, you know who to vote for.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's inherited. I think it's a dynasty, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I mean, so this here in chat, do you feel safe? Are you still taking precautions? I'm not asking for medical advice. I'm just curious for those who joined later. Ryan was sharing that he's contracted coronavirus before. So, dude, now that you have antibodies, are you like taking everybody's spit like from outside? Like, are you just?
No, I'm lucky in that I got it with 15 other people, and we all tested positive, and we're all fine now, and we all possess antibodies. So I'm lucky in that I've been able to hang out with my friends in small groups, and basically only the people that got sick. Eventually, I did go down and see my parents, but after a long time of quarantine, because I hadn't seen them since Christmas.
And what's the transmit rate to that, by the way? Like after you're cured of COVID, can you you can't give it to anybody, right?
I think you can still carry it. It's just that there's a decreased chance of you actually contracting COVID-19. You can still pass the coronavirus to other people, which is why, the whole reason you social distance and put a mask on is not so you don't get it, it's so that you don't pass it to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what a lot of people don't understand, actually.
And that's the disappointing thing, is because you're seeing a lot of people that are only concerned about themselves and not concerned about other people. They're running around saying, well, it's my right, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, you're just endangering other people. It's basically saying, I want to drive drunk because I should be able to do whatever I want, even though you have the potential to, kill somebody by driving drunk. It's insane,
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal to put a mask over your face.
You're mandated by law to put on a seatbelt, right?
Exactly. And by the way, do you know who made that happen? Ralph Nader did. Ralph Nader is the reason that seatbelts exist.
Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. He pushed so hard for that. He was the guy that made it so that seatbelts have to be put in cars. I think that might be one of the reasons. I think that might have pushed him into the public consciousness at the higher level and created him to the point where he was able to, run for president.
Yeah. Well, here's a question for you in chat. Do you believe that if the coronavirus mutates that you'll be able to catch it again? Similar how you can catch multiple strains of the flu.
Well, it actually already has mutated. There have already been articles about it out there that there's a new strain of the coronavirus that they've found that has about the same death rate, but it's easier to spread. The transmission rate is higher. So
yeah, that's what
I'm not absolutely sure, but I don't discount it. Even though I have antibodies, I don't believe that I'm invincible. I don't believe that I can't catch it. I'm still careful. My favorite grocery store to go to is H Mart, which is a Korean grocery store. And it's amazing because, number one, everyone that's in that place wears a mask. And number two, before you even walk in the place, they give you a free pair of gloves to wear. And they have hand sanitizer stations all over the place. It's great. And plus, everything's really cheap and delicious. And they play alternative music over the speakers. You're walking through a Korean grocery store and they're playing Bjork and Rage Against the Machine and Radiohead, and you're like, did someone create this place for me? This is incredible.
Oh, shoot. They locked me out. No. Yeah, you know what's so funny is that the people that you find talking about infringing on your rights because you don't want to wear a mask are the same people that say that they would diligently fight for this country for they're some of the most patriotic people you'll find. But
yeah, they won't do something yeah.
And on top of that, oh shoot, no, hold on 1 second. I'm the last guy in the group. Let me go pick somebody up. And they're also the same people that preach social responsibility or personal responsibility, right? They're the ones who say that you need to lift yourself up by the bootstrap and people need to take personal responsibility for their lives, right? But yet they're not doing something that is basic and necessary for the safety of, let's even say it's our elderly, even though we know that more than just our elderly actually end up contracting it, right? Let's say it is just for the elderly, right? Is that not worth it? Is that not okay? Right? It's
I don't get it, man. I think people. One of the scariest things for me is that there have always been conspiracy theories. Back in the Clinton administration, there was a conspiracy theory that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton had Vince Foster murdered. There's always been conspiracy theories out now. Alex Jones has been a conspiracy theorist for years. He used to be on the fringes of the internet. You know, he was actually like featured in multiple Richard Linklater movies. If you've ever seen Waking Life, the movie Waking Life, he's shown as like just like a civil rights kind of guy, like screaming about the government, you know, like trying to control things. Then he gets like abducted by a car or something like that. But now, like during like the 2016 election cycle, he was basically weaponized. You know, it's funny because he was always like anti every president. He was against George W. Bush, talking about how he's creating a police state. And now, all of a sudden, he's like super pro-Trump, and he's like promoting the Pizzagate conspiracies and all these things. The problem with these groups of people that get all wrapped up with QAnon and everything is that it makes you question everything to the point where like people don't really know what's real anymore. Like they don't believe anything that happens in the news. So you get these people that just will believe anything that Donald Trump says. And like that is not healthy. Like I don't care if you're left wing or right wing, you know, you have to be able to look at things and use creative my brain's like dying. I've been talking so long. Critical thinking skills, you know? It's like they're just turning off their brains.
Ryan, what is that? What is critical thinking?
What are critical thinking skills?
Yeah. But no, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. And look, I also agree on both aspects, right? And I believe that this is not a party problem with one specific party. I believe that this is, in general, kind of a problem that we're having in the United States as a whole. Right.
People want a simple explanation for something, and they'll often gravitate to the most simple thing, which is usually conspiracy theory. The thing is that not everything is simple. There's a lot of factors going on in any big story out there. So.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree with that. And again, you know, people need to take in all the facts, and they need to stop drawing things on party lines to, you know. Like, honestly, drawing party over country is a terrible, terrible thing. And I don't care what party you're a part of.
George Washington warned about it, like, at the beginning of our country.
So,
party politics, get them out.
I'm going to go ahead and move us over to the last topic of the night, which is... This is coming from BBC News. And so, according to BBC News and several other outlets that I've seen, China is now shutting down an area in Mongol. Like, is it like Mongolia? It's
like Eastern Mongolia.
Yeah. So they're shutting it down because they say that they have the bubonic plague, which, to be clear, and so that everybody on chat and everybody knows what's going on, the bubonic plague never went away, and there are cases of the bubonic plague every year, and even in the US, actually. Yep. Now, and this article here from the BBC is saying it's not a high risk. They're saying it's not a high risk. This isn't something for us to be worried about at this moment. So I would actually like to get your thoughts on this, because in all honesty, with the current plague sitting there slapping us around right now, right? Like, this just stokes additional fears about, anything else that can kind of come through and like destroy our country or destroy our livelihood. So
the thing about the plague, and it's highlighted in this article, and you can read about it elsewhere, is that it is treatable. It's very treatable. You just have to catch it early. They hit you with antibiotics and other things, and it's gone. Yeah, that's the thing with a disease that's been around for a long time. Scientists have had the ability to study it and figure it out. Coronavirus is so new, and there's so many things going on. People don't really know that much about it. We're obviously learning more every day, but at this point, there's a reason we don't have a vaccine or anything, because it takes a long time to develop that type of stuff. The thing about this, I would say, is stop eating weird animals. The coronavirus was started because of bats, and there's a huge, there are these markets in China where people like eat these, different types of wild animals. There's a huge market for it. And if you read this article, you can see that little guy right there. People have been contracting it by eating marmots and eating raw livers from the marmots.
But I mean, does that not look
medicinal properties?
That creature doesn't look delicious? Like, I don't blame the Chinese government. Look at those teeth. That thing looks delicious.
I mean, people are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to eat what they're going to eat. But I honestly, and I'm biased, I think that this whole thing, and like, if you look at a lot of viruses that have happened over the last 20 years, swine flu, bird flu, mad cow disease, all these things, like, we should just be eating less meat, because these factory farms and like these things, these places in China, they're causing these like huge problems that end up destroying things for us. And there's so many reasons to either be vegan or vegetarian, or just cut down the amount of meat you eat, like a couple days a week. Like, there's no reason for you to eat meat every single day. It's not good for you. It's not good for your heart.
No, it's not.
It's not good for any. It's not. There's no reason to do it.
Now, out of curiosity, because I'm not sure.
Vegan.
I'm not sure I know. Chad is saying Ryan for president. I'm not sure if I know this. Are you vegan now? I know you weren't before, but at this current moment, are you vegan?
I was vegan for like a year and some change. Now I eat dairy every once in a while. If I'm getting eggs, I make sure they're like, organic, cage free. I'll eat salmon every once in a while, but okay. My fiance is vegan, and a vast majority of the food that we eat is vegan. Just that's kind of what we eat here. Like, when I'm out with my friends, sometimes I'll eat some other things, but fish, seafood, stuff like that. But
yeah.
I have a lot of respect for vegans.
Yeah, I mean, you'd better if your fiance's on the other side of that door. But I mean, obviously, I do too. I'm married to a vegan. I myself, I'm not vegan. But I'm actually a pescatarian, so I do eat.
Yeah, that's basically what
I eat fish, and it's not. And before I get awarded as a hero to the PETA community, it's not necessarily because of the animals. It's just so that I'm more conscious about the food that I eat. But there's obviously some of those positive side effects from exactly that, right? Like, that you're healthier in general. Yep. Right.
Yep.
It makes a lot of sense if you really think about it. So yeah.
There's a really good documentary on Netflix called Game Changer, I think, and it's like a vegan documentary. A lot of vegan documentaries really annoy me because they go from like building a really good case, and then they're like, one guy talks about how it cured his cancer, and I'm like, get that shit out of here. Oh my God. But Game Changer is great because it takes a scientific perspective, and they basically go and like speak to like people that are in sports and things like that. Like, I don't remember exactly what happens, but it's just a very different vegan documentary, and it's basically meant to show people the positive aspects of going vegan, not talking about animal cruelty or anything like that. Just talking about what the positive health benefits are, and like how it can change your life for the better, how it can help you lose weight,
and they're plentiful.
Increase your chances of getting heart disease and diabetes.
They're plentiful. Josiah in chat says stop eating all animals, and then she puts comma people. I don't know if what she means is that we should start eating people, but
Soylent Green.
But yeah, so Gabriel says, but chicken. Okay.
But chicken.
Yeah, I think that's one of those. But chicken, though, right? There's a lot of chicken being eaten in that household, I'm sure.
By the way, someone leaked the Chick-Fil-A sauce recipe recently, and Yana got it, and they also talked about how they prepare their chicken and why it tastes the way it does. Apparently, they marinate their chicken in pickle juice before they put it, they bread it, and then they fry it in peanut oil instead of normal oil. So now you have no reason to go to Chick-fil-A anymore because it is a homophobic, horrible organization. And now you can make your own Chick-fil-A at home.
See,
and you can get it on Sunday.
For me, it's less of a political stance, and it's just a simple fact that they're not open on Sundays. That bothers me.
Oh my God. I said at one point, like, I would apply to be their CEO and be like, I guarantee you that I will increase profits by at least 1/7 within a week.
Oh,
like, how are you going to do that? Like, we're opening on Sunday, boys.
Yeah, easy.
It's the only day you want Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Chat says, sweet, I love the Chick-fil-A sauce.
Yeah. It's really like the Chick-fil-A sauce. It's basically barbecue. It's like their barbecue sauce, their honey mustard sauce. I'll post it online. Yana actually made it the other night, and it's really good.
Yeah, I'll post it in the show notes after everything's done. So if you're interested, come back to it. And then what I'll also do is I'll post it on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
All right. So, I think it's getting time to start wrapping the stream up. If you'll give me a second, I'll piss all of these people off by quitting on them in the game. I'm being a terrible human being there. And then I'll switch the scene over back to here. But hey, Ryan, I wanted to thank you very much for joining me on the second episode of one more game, right? One last game. I should probably, since I named them, I should remember what it's called. But I think that this conversation has been wonderful. You've been a great guest. If people wanted to kind of follow your band or follow you on social media, if you do that type of thing, where can people find you?
Supreme Commander and Collider can both be found on Facebook, Bandcamp. You can look up our music anywhere on any of the streaming services. My Instagram handle is Burkedom. And I'll give you some links you can put in the show notes too. Okay,
that'd be fantastic. Any last questions from the folks on the stream? Looks like Brain Candle loves him some Chick-fil-A sauce. That's good. All right. So guys, as you guys know, my name is Blur. I stream on Twitch, YouTube, and now Facebook Gaming. Again, we just hit or passed, right? We just passed actually by at least 10%. 100 likes on our Facebook page, meaning that we are going to be going into the Level Up program. Thank you guys very much. That is all due to you guys. Check out the YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to the channel. Like the videos. I have a lot of tech reviews. I have a couple of reviews of some mice that I have coming out. Also talking about, where you should put your money, right? Our streaming, our game subscription service is worth it. We're taking a look at this week's episode that comes out, or video, sorry, that comes out on Friday, is going to be talking about Microsoft's Project X Cloud and, what you can expect if you want to get into that type of streaming service. I'm going to do a couple other videos here. The next one is going to be on NVIDIA's streaming platform. The name's eluding me. GeForce Now. I'm going to take a look at Stadia afterwards. And I'm debating on whether or not I'm going to make another video specifically on, very specifically on PS Now, because I did do a big kind of dissection of PS Now on our game subscription services Worth It. So I'm not sure if I want to make another video on that, but Look forward to that, guys, if that's something that you're interested in. If you're interested in gaming, if you're interested in these types of live streams where we kind of talk about day-to-day news, maybe some politics and opinions while playing some games. I was going to say the latest games, but Destiny's definitely old. Guys, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It would be really appreciated. I have about 113, last I checked, likes on the Facebook page, but only 40 people subscribe to the channel. So if you guys will do that, that'd be great. All of the social media links for me are listed and will be listed in the show notes. So with that being said, guys, thank you very much for joining, and you guys have a great rest of your day. And thank you, Ryan, for joining me on the stream.
Of course. Take care.
All right. What am I doing now?